What's up, Tasty Nation? Mike here for another episode of Options in Action, where we take old whiteboard videos, bring them to light in the platform with advanced tactics for some of the beginner concepts and strategies that we've talked about over the years. We've gone through a lot already, so check out the playlist if you haven't already on the YouTube channel. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Tasty Live if you haven't already, and let me know what you think about the topics in the comments below. Today, we are talking about leverage. So leverage is really interesting and really usable in the options trading space, also in the futures trading space, and especially in the futures options trading space. Really, when it comes down to leverage, from a beginner standpoint, you learn about options and the fundamentals of options, how you can buy options to gain leverage relative to shares of stock. For me, in the context of just the definition, if I have the elevator pitch of what is leverage for options trading, it is simply the ability to control 100 shares for a limited amount of time, and that's why it is way less expensive to buy 100 deltas or potential 100 deltas in a stock or ETF for a limited amount of time relative to buying shares for an unlimited amount of time. The time frame is really the key indicator for leverage from an options buying perspective. From the selling side, it's really about buying power reduction and the lack of buying power reduction for the stock going to zero. In an IRA account, you don't have any leverage. You have to put up the same amount of capital as if the stock or ETF was going to zero. So if I sell a put in SPY in an IRA account in the US, I'm putting up the full capital required as if SPY is going to zero. I don't believe SPY is going to zero, so there's things we can do to mitigate that. We can turn it into a spread. We can utilize butterflies or long options to the downside to eliminate that risk of the market going to zero, or the perceived risk of the market going to zero in those account types. But for a standard to margin account, I think it is really imperative to check the buying power requirement, make sure that we're making the most of every dollar that we're using for these option strategies. Sometimes you'll have really heightened implied volatility in some of these products, like in SpaceX, for example. 80% implied volatility. It's trading around 150 right now, just below the IPO print. But if we look at just like selling a put in the 44-day cycle, this stock is a $150 stock. We're putting up $5,600 in buying power. However, this is a really high implied volatility instrument. So I'm collecting almost $1,000 for the next 44 days for a $5,600 buying power requirement with a max loss of about 12K. That's a pretty strong return on capital. I like to say if I'm selling premium undefined risk, I like to collect 20% potential return on capital. So that checks out here. Collecting $1,000, putting up $5,600, that's basically 20% for just one side. If I have a strangle on or something like that, it's going to be really easy to get to that number with anything above, let's call it implied volatility of 50% or more, I would say. When you get into some of these lower implied volatility environments, using Nike, I think, is a good example. 35% implied volatility, $3 implied move. If we go to the same exact options expiration cycle in August, you have kind of a different world here. You've got a dollar premium if we were to go just slightly out of the money, 80 cents here, and you're putting up $560 in buying power. Now, the interesting thing here is you're collecting a little bit less here, but you have a smaller price product. You have the ability to put up less capital relative to max loss, right? And that's because implied volatility is lower. So sometimes you'll have this where you have really high implied volatility. You've got expanded buying power requirements because you're dealing with a market that can move around a lot. So keep that in mind if you're selling premium in equities. And at a certain point, it becomes kind of a no-go for me. Like if I look at TLT and we're dealing with the August cycle, this has such low implied volatility, 10% here. We're talking multiples lower of the products we just looked at. There's no premium here to sell. Like this is just a scenario where I'm not going to use a short premium strategy because I'm not putting up $1,500 in buying power to sell a put slightly out of the money for 50 cents and risk $8,000. Like there's just no reason for me to do this in my mind. Sure, it's a high probability trade still, but there's more efficient ways to utilize this capital. Collecting 50 cents and putting up $1,500, that is not a good return on capital, and you still hold all the risk of an undefined risk trade. So that leads me to the next point. Let's say we're buying options. I think you can go a lot of different ways with this, but The time frame aspect of buying options can actually hurt you. So a lot of people have the allure of going to SpaceX or going to SPX and setting up trades where they're trying to hit these home runs. They're buying these options far out of the money for 50 cents or $1. And yes, if you get an intraday reversal, you can make a good amount of money on those trades if you are closing them prior to expiration. If you're buying these options far out of the money and you're holding them to expiration, you're going to have a lot of losers on your hand because the market needs to move outside of the implied move. We're looking at an 18-point implied move for the rest of the day, and these options are reflecting basically a low probability of that happening. Now, things can happen. It can work for you, but it's a low probability trade. You need to have a lot of capital to withstand the variance of the downside before you hit that home run if you're doing zero-day stuff. The further out in time you go, you're going to have less leverage by the way of multiplication of the debit paid. So like if I have a zero-day option that I buy for $1 and we get a 100-point rally on some news that comes out, you're going to make a lot of money on that debit paid from a percentage standpoint. But if you go a week out or 2 weeks out and you're still trying to keep risk low, like keeping it to $1,000 or a couple $1,000s, this is still a much higher probability trade, right? Because now instead of an 18-point implied move for today, just today, I've got an 180-point implied move for the next 20 days. I can still put up a couple $100s of capital. Yes, I can set up the same trade where I'm going outside of the expected move, but now if that same move happens, I'm still going to make a couple $1,000s on that move. If we get a 100-point rally, this $800, $900 option still goes to $2-3 grand. So you can still make a ton of money. You don't have the same amount of extrinsic value decay. So when it comes down to buying options, if you're buying them naked, I like to say you get what you pay for. If you go further out in time, you have a lot of time for the trade to work out. You're actually buying a lower implied volatility reading than if you're buying near-term options. And again, the more time you have for a directional assumption, the better off you're going to be because you have a lot more opportunity for that thing to work in your favor. And last but not least, looking at something like SpaceX, again, if you're speculating on SpaceX, I looked at this cycle. I'm like, okay, 560 days from now, I think SpaceX will be higher. But I don't want to buy this option by itself. This option by itself is already down about $600 from when I purchased it. However, I paired it with a high probability component by selling a put. So sometimes you can use both sides of the coin. You can look at a speculation asset or a speculation vehicle, instrument, whatever you want to call it, in a long call. I believe that if and when SpaceX has a big rally to the upside, we probably will see implied volatility increase, and we'll probably see call skew, which just means the out-of-the-money calls are trading for a higher value than out-of-the-money puts. We'll probably see that increase as well. So I want to have the naked call component for both of those reasons. But I don't want to put up all the capital. I want to create a neutral profit range in case I'm wrong and SpaceX just chops at 150 for the next year and a half. That's possible too. So I paired it with a short put. Sold the put here at 125 and collected $300 more than the option that I bought at 300. So now I have this neutral range of profitability where I've collected the credit, and if we look at this from a analysis standpoint, you can see at expiration, I've got plenty of upside wiggle room here if we isolate this trade. Plenty of upside room if we get that big rally, but in the middle here, I'm still going to keep the credit received. So these are the types of things that options give you. They give you the leverage if you're trying to buy premium and you don't want to put up the same amount of capital as owning 100 shares of stock. That's where the zebra strategy came in, the zero extrinsic back ratio strategy, where you're buying 2 in-the-money calls, selling an at-the-money call to eliminate almost all or all of the extrinsic value, and it gives you a nice vertical representation of 100 shares of stock with a fraction of the risk. So I love zebras and something like TLT where you have really low implied volatility, and from my perspective it makes a lot more sense to buy an option and speculate on directional move versus selling an option and putting up a ton of capital for very little profit potential. In situations like SpaceX, it can be a blend of both worlds where you're selling a really high implied volatility put to finance the purchase of a really far out of the money call, and you're collecting a credit in the middle. You're using leverage to the upside with the potential for 100 deltas in SpaceX, and that delta grows as the product rises in price because your call gains delta, your short put loses delta, but they're directionally synergized, where a short put losing value is going to benefit the long call gaining value at the same time. So this is the Super Bowl setup that we talk about all the time on the network. And everywhere in between, makes a lot of sense. Nike, I actually have a long-term leap option in Nike because it fit my risk tolerance. I looked at Nike and I was like, hey, this thing has gone down to 12, 13-year lows. Why not buy an option for a couple $100 and see if it rallies 10 points? If we get a move from 42 to 50, this option is probably going to double in price. And again, this is a low IV environment where it doesn't cost me very much to get into an option like this with such a long time frame. So these are the things I like to think about when it comes to leverage these days. I like to utilize leverage in my favor. If I'm selling premium, especially undefined risk, I'm always checking the buying power requirement, making sure that my return on capital number is healthy, which is around 20% or more for me. I don't like to sell premium if I'm collecting less than that. I think it's an indicator for me that I can probably use a debit trade like a diagonal or calendar spread instead and be much more efficient with my capital and reflect a similar directional assumption or neutral assumption in the same regard. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like this video and subscribe to the Tasty Live channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next episode of Options in Action.